Hey, this is Bills Vader, and you're now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Justin. May the Bills be with you. Go Bills.
Hello and welcome into another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show here on the Buffalo FAMBase network, the originators of Bills Mafia. My name is Andrew Chang, and it's just going to be me tonight. My co-host Justin Goddard could not be here today because he somehow contracted my cold through, the airwaves. But I'm on the upswing, he's on the downswing. But in any event, we're going to try to give you an episode that will help you enjoy listening to this podcast wherever you're listening to. And if you are listening, I just want to say thank you first off. But anyways, so this is going to be a shorter episode, not too much to talk about as the Buffalo Bills are gearing up for the NFL draft. But the main things that we do need to talk about is the free agent market, specifically when it comes to cornerback. And then after that, we'll talk about where the Buffalo Bills could have moved to, a team that was interested in, or asking questions rather. Then after that, we'll talk about our reasons why you should be excited for the upcoming Buffalo Bills season. So let's start with the cornerbacks. Stephon Gilmore signs a $23 million guaranteed contract with the Indianapolis Colts. And it was pretty much reported that the Buffalo Bills were interested in him, but it just kind of got too pricey. So what does this tell us, Bills fans? The Buffalo Bills are definitely interested in a veteran cornerback and probably a CB2, as we already have our CB1, Tre'Davious White. No questions about that. He's our guy, right? We were in on Patrick Peterson. Now, obviously, he went back to the Minnesota Vikings. The market is starting to dry up. That's not saying that there's not someone out there that the Bills could sign, but it looks like the Bills are getting their options are slimming down here. So I'm just going to list off some free agents right now that maybe the Buffalo Bills could sign. And this comes courtesy of Spot Rack. All right. So here's just some names: Trey Waynes, Joe Hayden, Kyle Fuller, Chris Harris, Janoris Jenkins, better known as Jackrabbit Jenkins, Bryce Callahan, Jason Verrett, Kevin King, Xavier Rhodes, Jimmy Smith, AJ Boye, Travis Carey, Javon Hargrades. You kind of get where I'm going with. So this is a big list of cornerbacks. So the Bills could theoretically pick someone up, and they do have the cap space to do it. Now, that's not to say we don't have a lot of cap space anymore. The Bills have done a lot this offseason, and I am 100% okay with it. All right? And it was such an awesome offseason, and the fact that we only have one glaring need is cornerback, that's pretty sweet to me. If it were up to me, I'm pretty interested in the Buffalo Bills reaching out to someone like Joe Hayden. Maybe you kick the tires on someone like AJ Boye or Bryce Callahan. Maybe even a Jackrabbit Jenkins. And there's also speculation that the Buffalo Bills could trade for someone like, James Bradbury. But what is it going to take for us to get him, and then we got to finagle with his contract? So, we got to give up draft capital to get a guy like that. In any event, it is nice to know that the Buffalo Bills are doing everything that they can, and that they're kicking the tires at least, to get a good cornerback, or at least increase the depth at cornerback. I'm hard-pressed to believe that if the Buffalo Bills did sign someone like Patrick Peterson or a Stephon Gilmore's, that you'd find a lot of Bills fans out there kind of upset about that, right? Because Brandon Beane is just literally doing his job and building up depth here. And if you had that cornerback opposite of Tre'Davious White and had someone like Dane Jackson and a rookie on the bench, I'm for that. So I think that the Buffalo Bills should probably make a move here soon. If not, we've seen this regime when they weren't working for the Buffalo Bills and they were working for the Carolina Panthers show the propensity to roll out two rookies. We saw when Josh Norman left the Carolina Panthers that they drafted James Bradbury, started him, and Darryl Worley started him. So this regime isn't like scared to do something like that. And I think that last year they were kind of forced to do that too with Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson, and it was pretty serviceable, if you ask me. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. Was it the best? No. If Tre'Davious White was in the lineup, do I think the Bills would have won the Super Bowl? I mean, I can't say yes or no to that, but I do like my chances that the Bills probably make a stronger push and their defense gets elevated even more because Tre'Davious White is a transcending type of scheme player. Let's move on. Well, before we move on to the next segment, all I want to say is that it's nice knowing that the Buffalo Bills, Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, they are trying to bolster up this defense and really make a push towards the Super Bowl. Moving on to the next segment, and this comes courtesy of Matt Warren over at Buffalo Rumblings. It's been reported that other teams, and I guess this doesn't really matter anymore because, the agreement for the stadium has already been met. The Bills are staying in Western New York for the next 30 years. But before that was kind of set in stone, other cities were reaching out, trying to figure out the logistics, trying to take a pragmatic approach to see whether or not having a team, or trying to see like what it would take to pry a team like Buffalo out and move it to their city. So one city that was reported that was interested was San Diego. I would have not liked that. And us as Bills fans, and I am definitely guilty of this, at least when I was younger, take the fact that we have a football team for granted. It is an absolute privilege to have an NFL team in your area. And like I said, when I was younger, I didn't really think about it too much, but as soon as the passing of Ralph Wilson happened and I really was like getting into football, I was like, oh man, this sucks. Bon Jovi's going to take our team to Canada. But that didn't happen, obviously. And then I was like, oh my God, Donald Trump's going to buy our team and he's going to move us to some other place. And then next thing you know, the Pagula comes up. They come up and buy the team. But even then, you knew that the stadium was a problem, and that even though they put money in it, that they were looking to get reimbursed some way. And we saw that with the stadium agreement with the PSEs or PSLs, and then the fact that a lot of the state will be funding the project for the new stadium. So I guess what goes around comes around. But it would have been really sad for me, at least, and I'm just taking a step back and not factoring finances into this. It would have been detrimental if the Buffalo Bills moved out of Western New York, right? I'm not talking upstate New York. I'm talking Western New York, okay? If the Buffalo Bills would have left, I would argue that that would have changed the landscape financially, and I just don't even know what Buffalo would be without the Bills. The team means so much to that community and Western New York community in general that it's almost ineffable, right? And if you ever watch How I Met Your Mother early on, you know what I'm talking about. It's ineffable. Basically means it can't be explained. And I feel like only a small I'm sorry, excuse me. What I'm trying to say here is that only a small group of NFL fans understand what I'm talking about because the Buffalo Bills play in such a small market. Buffalo, Western New York. Not too many other teams can say that. Here's just some other teams I can think off the top of the head that can, resonate with the same feelings. The Cleveland Browns, maybe. The Green Bay Packers. I mean, I'm definitely probably missing another one. The Colts. I don't know. But I would argue that in those small market cities, the NFL team that's there, if it gets pulled away from them, it changes everything. And I'm just very fortunate and happy that the Buffalo Bills are staying in Western New York and not moving to a place like San Diego or with Bon Jovi to Canada. So I'm glad that didn't happen, but it does show you that other teams and other cities were kicking the tires on the Buffalo Bills. And, 30 years down the pipeline, something like this might happen again. So just to be known, just to put it out there, the Buffalo Bills are a wanted team, even though I think Forbes has them as like one of the most least valuable team. Like, even if you're least valuable, you're still valuable. So let's not forget that. Cherish what we have here in Western New York, Bills fans, or wherever you're listening to this pod. All right. And then I want to talk about really quick, before we go into the break, everyone's doing mock drafts, right? Mock drafts here, left and right. What people want. When I was young, I always had this problem differentiating what I want versus what I need. And I would always say that to my cousin, who was my babysitter, because my mom had to work a bunch of those hours. And he told me early on, like, Andrew, you are confusing those two things. And I would just be like, what are you talking about? And he would be like, what do you need? What do you want? And I think this is a real interesting thought exercise in what the Buffalo Bills should do going into the NFL draft, right? Excuse me. So you look at what the Buffalo Bills' true needs are, right? Let's take a step back and actually look at this roster. What do the Buffalo Bills actually really need? If this season started today, what do the Buffalo Bills need? I would argue cornerback, punter. I really am having a hard time thinking of anything else besides those two things as true needs, right? And even at that, like, the Bills have shown you that they will roll with Matt Hawk. They did it all last year. They said, all right, well, as long as he can hold the football, it's okay, because this offense will just keep the ball humming. Well, it kind of worked and it kind of didn't sometimes. So, but hey, I think that's really important to think about. Now let's think about the wants. I want the Buffalo Bills to pick a wide receiver, a linebacker. I want them to shore up some interior offensive line depth. Again, a punter, a corner. I want them to shore up depth in a lot of spaces. And I guess a real good way to show you what I mean about this is that Joe Marino mentioned on his podcast that the Buffalo Bills are interested in, or maybe more interested in, running 3 linebacker sets. Right now it's Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, and then Teron Johnson playing the nickel cornerback / linebacker role. If the Buffalo Bills did want to run more 3 linebacker sets, they would definitely just draft a linebacker. And there's been links between them and Chad Muma potentially going in the second round, and they've already met with him a couple of times. So that might be something that the Bills want to do, but is it something that they need to do? No. If they get to that pick and a standout corner is right there, and that's a definite need over the want for linebacker, I would anticipate that they would just take that cornerback all day long. Now, it's got to make sense, right? The Bills need a punter. They're not going to pick a punter in the first round. The value's got to be there too, right? So I just want to put that out there real quick because everyone wants a running back. Everyone wants a wide receiver. Everyone wants interior offensive line or so whatever position. But I think as fans, we just got to take a step back and realize that what we want might not be what the Bills want and what the Bills need. And it's so hard when we do these mock drafts because we're just trying to be predictive and just try to be our best Brandon Beane impersonators. But sometimes that doesn't work. Anyways, we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Bills Vader. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to wrap up this episode by talking about our 13 reasons of why you should be excited for the upcoming Buffalo Bills season. But first, you can always find us on most social media and podcasting platforms, and even on YouTube by searching up the Wandering Buffalo Podcast. You can find me by searching up Two Changs and my co-host, Justin, by searching up JGods22. Thanks for sticking around. Now, we got to talk about our 13 reasons of why you should be excited of this upcoming Buffalo Bills season. So, if you're not familiar with what this segment is, it's basically, we lost the divisional round in 13 seconds to the Kansas City Chiefs, and yeah, that sucked. So, me and Justin decided to take a spin on it, like, instead of 13 seconds of pain, let's come up with 13 reasons of why we should be excited for the 2022 season. So I'm going to quickly go through the first 11 here, and then we'll talk about today's reason, which I think everyone will be pretty excited about for next season. So number 1, we got Brandon Beane. Number 2, Gabriel Davis. Number 3, Tre'Davious White and the medical staff. Number 4, defensive line improvements. Number 5, Buffalo has become a destination for free agents, which, yeah, I would agree with that. Number 6, Bills' wide receiver room will improve. Number 7, the Ryan Bates, or Rick Bates, depending on who you ask, situation. Number 8, safeties. Number 9, draft optimism, and I'm really excited about that considering that the draft is coming up. Number 10, Dawson Knox. And number 11, Tremaine Edmonds. And today's reason, Sean McDermott, the clap man himself. When we came up with this list, we already knew it was only a matter of time before we had to talk about our guy, Sean McDermott. Let's go back to the Rex Ryan era. The Pagulas sign or hire Rex Ryan, and I remember thinking to myself, this was a bad hire, but this is a new NFL owner. And I just thought to myself when the hire happened, I was like, oh man, I really wish we just didn't get them. Didn't get Rex Ryan, not the Pagulas. I really wish we didn't get Rex Ryan because I don't think he does a good job. And he definitely proved it, right? He took a team, a top 3 ranked defense, and everyone's like, oh, Rex Ryan's a defensive mastermind. And I was just like, is he though? Is he? What has he done with the Jets that would prove that? Right? He had that one good season, then everything's like downhill. Then he comes to Buffalo where the baseline, the benchmark for the standard is high. What's he do to the defense? Brings it down. I do not understand how he didn't make the playoffs with that team, with Tyrod Taylor leading and Shady McCoy. Now we know the story. He gets canned, and then we bring in the exact opposite with Sean McDermott. And I'll be honest, I did not know a lick of this guy, but I did know he was the exact opposite of a guy like Rex Ryan. And I was like, okay, so he's not going to ride a tandem bicycle through Delaware Park. That's cool. He's not going to just shade in his tattoo to be Bills colors or something like that, or like paint his truck. Like, that was pretty cool, I guess. The one thing I will say about Rex Ryan is that he drew a lot of attention to Buffalo, but he did it through, I'm just trying to think of a nice word here, asinine ways. That's not really nice, but he just did it in like such a weird way, which is like, hey, look at us, I'm all Bills and whatnot. And then McDermott's over here is like, all right, I'm just gonna draw attention to Buffalo by making this team good, coaching them. And ever since Sean McDermott's been in here, he's developed this culture. And we always hear him talk about the culture, trust the process. And if you ever listen to me and Justin talk about this, we always go like, what does it mean to trust the process? What is this culture? And these are fair questions. And I can tell you, I can't answer that 100% to you because I'm not Sean McDermott, but I will tell you what I have noticed. I think what I've noticed about the culture is that everyone is playing for each other and not for themselves. Sean McDermott has been on the record by saying, if you come to Buffalo, you are going to be the best version of yourself. So what does he mean by that? He means on and off the field. And we've seen multiple players come in here and truly get that opportunity. You look at a guy like Shaq Lawson, Jordan Phillips. As soon as Sean McDermott comes in, they're starting to do well. They're getting their stats up. They're doing great things. Then they leave in free agencies on big contracts. They get those opportunities, and now they're back. You hear both of those guys talk about how, I just want to come back to Buffalo. And that is something that speaks to the true intangibles of what Sean McDermott has built here in Buffalo. In that locker room, you want to play for the guy next to you, to your left, to your right, for the guy who's playing on the opposite side of the football from you that's wearing the same logo on the side of their helmet. Right? It's just something that, again, that's ineffable. And that's something that you can't really teach someone. Right? Wrong. Sean McDermott has brought some people in that are wired the right way, and he's helped them configure themselves and work harder and that growth mentality. And what I really like is the fact that he practices what he preaches, and I'm really appreciative of that. Now let's talk about the process. So we just talked about the culture. The process, to me at least, is trust. That's all he's asking for. Trust me. Things are going to look bad. At this point in stage of where the team has gone and where it is in its development, the process is there. It's already, at this point, in my opinion, it's done. Right? He took a bad team, took us to the playoffs, ripped the Band-Aid off. We really hit the hard reset button. And the process to me is being competitive, getting to the playoffs, elevating our level of play, understanding, learning the game, raising our IQ, football IQ, being better for the community of Western New York. He's done that. Now, the ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl, but this franchise has taken a 180 since Sean McDermott has come in. So is the process really over until the Bills win the Super Bowl? Well, I guess I spoke prematurely. I want to say no, but I do want to say the process so far, it looks fantastic. So I take back what I said. Sorry. I apologize. The process is not over. I want it to keep going, but when the Bills win the Super Bowl, that will definitely be the biggest Trust the Process episode ever here on the Wandering Buffalo podcast. And I literally can't wait for it. Oh my God. The Buffalo Bills are so blessed that they got a guy like Sean McDermott leading this team. So, hey, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and review our podcast wherever you're listening or watching, of course. I appreciate you listening to it. You can always find me and Justin and our podcast by searching up the Wandering Buffalo Podcast. You can find me on social media by searching up Two Changs. You can find my co-host by searching up JGods22. And as I mentioned, we are a part of the Buffalo FAMBase, the originator of Bills Mafia. Yes, the fabled Bills Mafia. I love saying that every time. I just can't say it enough. Anyways, that's going to do it for us today. I hope you enjoy the start to your week. And hey, we're going to gear up for this draft episode we got coming on next week. We're going to bring our guy Dean Kindig he's the draft analyst for the Buffalo FAMBase too. And if you tuned into the live show that me, Justice, him, and Ryan Goggin did, he brings out this masterpiece of work. Truly, and it's something that you're just going to have to wait and see, because he takes a lot of time scouting what the Bills are scouting. He scouts the Bills and then takes what they do and puts it up on screen so we as fans can understand, and it makes it so digestible, and to see where the Bills' true interests are and where it's probably the most accurate draft board for a team I've ever seen. So I can't wait for that episode, and hopefully Justin will feel better by then. But until then, wherever you're listening to this podcast, I just want to say thank you and go Bills.